Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. My name is Ryan, and I'm a software engineer. The other day, I was in Las Vegas for a tech summit with my good friend and business partner, Nathan. We have just successfully signed a big order for our company, and we are very happy about it. After the meeting, we decided to celebrate our victory with a drink at the hotel bar. Sitting at the bar, Nathan and I chatted and reviewed the successful transaction. Just then, a loud noise came from the other end of the bar and caught our attention. "What's going on over there?" Nathan asked curiously. "Not sure," I replied, turning my head. Not far away, in a booth, I saw a blonde surrounded by a group of tall, lanky men. She looked a little drunk and was laughing loudly in response to one of the men. The woman was wearing a short skirt and a sleeveless blouse, even though the weather wasn't hot. My heart skipped a beat when I saw her face. That blonde hair, and the rose tattoo on her shoulder. It all reminds me of my wife, Amy. But it couldn't have been her. Amy was supposed to be in San Francisco on a business trip taking pictures of the landscape. She is a freelance photographer and often travels around the country. I tried to convince myself that it was just a coincidence, but the feeling of unease inside me grew stronger and stronger. I decided to give Amy a call to confirm her whereabouts. The phone rang several times, but there was no answer. I tried a few more times, and the results were the same. Finally, I sent her a text message asking where she was and if everything was okay. The wait for a reply seemed to be stretched out indefinitely. Finally, my cell phone vibrated. "I'm fine. I just finished a long day of work. Just getting ready for bed. What's wrong?" Amy's response seemed normal, but I felt something was wrong. "Nothing. I just miss you," I replied. "When are you coming back?" "Friday afternoon, just like I said," she replied. I put down my cell phone, but my doubts were not dispelled. Nathan noticed something unusual about me and asked if everything was okay. I just made a few casual remarks and didn't say much. For the next few days, I was distracted. When I got home, I tried to talk to Amy about her trip to San Francisco, but her answers were always vague, with inconsistent details. Whenever I asked for details, she would change the subject or say she was too tired to remember. What made me feel even more uneasy was that Amy started traveling more often. She told me that the company had given her more shooting assignments, which required her to go out of town more often. Sometimes, she would even get a call in the middle of the night about an urgent job that required an immediate trip to a certain city. I tried to believe her, but a seed of doubt took root in my heart. I began to notice details that I had previously overlooked. She always had clothes in her suitcase that I had never seen before. Some strange purchases appeared on her credit card statement. Sometimes, she came home looking exhausted, but she also looked very excited. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, the nightmare hit. During another of Amy's business trips, I began to feel unwell. At first, I thought it was just a common cold, but the symptoms got worse. Finally, I had to go to the doctor. The doctor told me solemnly, "Mr. Ryan, I regret to inform you that you have gonorrhea." I was struck by lightning, and I froze. Amy and I have been married for many years and have always been faithful to each other. If I have gonorrhea, there's only one explanation. When Amy came back, I wanted to question her, but when I saw how tired she looked, I swallowed my words. I decided to treat myself first, while secretly investigating the truth. I started watching Amy's every move, gathering evidence that she was cheating on me. I checked her cell phone records, went through her emails, and even stalked her a few times. But Amy always seemed to be one step ahead of me, cleverly covering her tracks. Finally, I realized I couldn't get to the bottom of it on my own. I need professional help. One night when Amy was away on another business trip, I dialed a phone number. "Hello, this is Detective Hawkins." A calm male voice came from the other end of the line. "Hello, this is Ryan Wilson. I need your help." I took a deep breath, ready to unravel the mystery that could change my life forever. The next morning, I arrived at Detective Hawkins' office as promised. Pushing open the door, a burly middle-aged man stood up to greet me. He had sharp eyes, as if he could see through people's hearts. "Mr. Ryan Wilson?" He extends his hand. "I'm James Hawkins. Have a seat." I briefly explained my situation to James. He listened attentively, nodding from time to time. When I finished, he pondered for a moment. "Ryan, I understand your situation. As an ex-cop, I've seen too many cases like this. But before we begin, I need to ask you a question. Are you sure you want to know the truth? Sometimes the truth can be more brutal than we realize." Without hesitation, I replied, "Yes, I need to know the truth. Whatever the outcome, I need to face it." James nodded. "Okay, let's get started then. First, I need you to provide me with some basic information about Amy, including her place of work, places she frequents, etc." Over the next few days, I gathered information about Amy like a spy and told James everything. A week later, James called me and told me he'd made an important discovery. When I sat in his office again, James had an unusually serious look on his face. "Ryan, I have some news for you, but I'm afraid it's not good." He spoke slowly. "According to my research, Amy has stopped taking commercial photography jobs at least 6 months ago." I felt a wave of vertigo. "What? And what has she been doing all this time?" James sighed. "That's the problem. Her whereabouts are a mystery. We've followed her a few times and found that she frequents some high-end hotels and private clubs. But what's more worrying is that I found out she has a secret bank account." He handed me a document with a list of staggering numbers. "There are large deposits in this account of unknown origin. Moreover, several modeling agencies have transferred money to this account." My heart sank to the bottom. All of this points to a fact that I am most reluctant to believe. "There's more." James continued. "We've got some medical records, Ryan, and Amy has had multiple abortions over the past few years." The news hit me like a hammer. I felt a wave of dizziness and almost fainted. James rushed to hold me and got me a glass of water. "I know this is hard to accept, but there's something else you need to know." James looked grave. "We found out that Amy signed a contract with a company called Stanton Enterprises. The contract was ostensibly about a body art shoot, but in reality, he didn't go on. But I understood. My wife, Amy, whom I love dearly, has been working in the porn industry filming." "Who is the CEO of Stanton Enterprises?" I asked with difficulty. "Harold Stanton," James replied, "is a man with a long and storied record of illegal business practices and fraud, but he's always managed to get away with it. He has a lot of influence in the porn industry." I felt a wave of nausea, but forced myself to keep listening. "We managed to get some DVDs," James hesitated, then pulled out a plastic bag. "Are you sure you want to watch them?" I nodded, though inside I was screaming no. James puts in a DVD and Amy's face appears on the screen. She looks so strange, so slutty. I couldn't watch anymore, so I signaled James to turn it off. "Ryan, I'm sorry you had to go through that." James soothed. "But now you know the truth. What are you going to do next?" I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. "I need to confront her. But before I do, I'd like to ask you some legal questions. Do you know a reliable divorce lawyer?" James nodded. "I happen to know one. Her name is Robin Taylor, and she's an expert in the field. Would you like me to put you in touch with her?" "Okay, thanks." I said, "And James, I'd like you to continue your investigation. I need to know what else Amy is hiding. I'd like to have more evidence if possible." James agreed and advised me to stay calm for the time being and not to spook anyone. We agreed to keep in touch at all times. Leaving the detective's office, I felt like the whole world was falling apart. I used to think I knew Amy, but now I realize I probably never really knew her. When I got home, I started scrutinizing every nook and cranny. Deep in Amy's closet, I found a locked box. After smashing it open, I was dumbfounded by what was inside. A variety of wigs, cosmetics, sexy lingerie, and some sex toys that I couldn't name. At the bottom of the box, I found a stack of photographs. It was a picture of Amy with a group of strangers, men and women, each with an expression of teasing and lust. On the backs of the photos are dates and locations, some of which were even taken on the day of our wedding anniversary. My heart is completely broken. All doubts were answered, all suspicions confirmed. I sat on the floor, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. I think about our first date, the night we proposed, the vows we made. Was it all a lie? Just then, I heard the lock turn. Amy's back. I wiped away my tears and stood up. It's time to face the truth. I took a deep breath and walked to the living room. Amy was dropping off her bags and looked surprised to see me. "Ryan, what are you doing home?" she asked, a hint of unease in her tone. I look at her, the woman I once loved so much, and now she's such a stranger. "Amy," I said calmly, "we need to talk." Amy's smile froze instantly at the sight of the evidence laid out on the living room table. I sat quietly on the couch, watching the expression on her face change from confusion to horror and finally settle into a strange calm. "Sit down, Amy," I said calmly. "We need to talk." She walked slowly to the chair across from me and sat down, never taking her eyes off the photos and papers on the table. "You know all about it." "It's not a question, it's a statement." I nodded. "Yes, I know all about it. Now, I want to hear it from you." "Why?" Amy took a deep breath, then began to talk. She said she had always felt that life was too mundane and longed for excitement and adventure. What started out as a harmless little trick has evolved into a double life. "It's not that I don't love you, Ryan," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. "I just need more." "More?" I sneered. "So you decided to make pornographic movies? Decide to have multiple abortions? Decided to cheat on your husband?" Amy lowered her head. "I know what I did was wrong, but I had no choice. Once you step into that world, it's hard to walk away from it, and Harold Stanton is not a man to be messed with." "What about the abortions?" I pressed, my voice shaking with anger. "Those could be our children." Amy's tears finally fell. "I don't know whose children those are. I couldn't risk having children that might not be yours." I felt a wave of dizziness and my stomach turned. I stood up, went to the window, and took several deep breaths to calm myself down. "You know what, Amy?" I turned around and looked her straight in the eye. "I can't forgive you for cheating. I can even forgive you for lying. But I can't forgive you for hurting innocent lives, for putting my health at risk." Amy looked up with confusion in her eyes. "What do you mean?" "I got gonorrhea, Amy, thanks to your artistry." Her face instantly turned pale. "God, Ryan, I didn't know. I'm really sorry." "Sorry?" I said coldly. "Sorry doesn't solve anything. I've contacted a lawyer and the divorce papers are being prepared." Just then, the doorbell rang. I walked over to the door and Robin Taylor and James Hawkins were standing outside. "Come in," I said, then turned to Amy. "This is Robin Taylor, my divorce attorney. You remember James, don't you?" Amy watched in horror as they walked in, then turned to me. "You planned this all along?" "Yes," I replied calmly, "just as you planned your double life." Robin pulled out a stack of papers and placed them on the table. "Mrs. Wilson, these are the divorce papers. Considering your special circumstances, I suggest you read them carefully and sign them. Otherwise, we will have to submit this evidence to the court." Amy shakily picked up the file and quickly skimmed through it. Her eyes widened at the property division part. "This is so unfair. You can't do this to me." "Unfair?" I sneered. "Do you think what you did to me was fair?" Just then, there was another knock on the door. James went to open the door and two men in suits walked in. FBI agents Jones and Smith. One of them showed his ID. "Mrs. Wilson, we have reason to believe that you are involved in the illegal production and distribution of pornography. Please come with us." Amy's face turned white as she looked at me desperately. "Ryan, please, don't do this to me. We can start over. I promise I'll change." I shook my head. "It's too late, Amy. You've had too many chances, but you've chosen to keep lying to me. Now, sign the divorce papers and go with these agents." Amy broke down. She cried and begged, but finally signed her name with a shaky hand. When the FBI agents took her away, she looked back at me one last time with remorse and despair in her eyes. A silence fell over the room as the door closed. Robin gently patted me on the shoulder. "You did a great job. Ryan, I know it wasn't easy, but you made the right choice." James also nodded. "We will continue to investigate Stanton and his company next. The information you provided is very helpful to us." I felt a wave of exhaustion hit me and sat down on the couch. Thanks, guys. I need some time to digest all this. They nodded understandingly, gathered their papers, and prepared to leave. At the door, Robin turned to me and said, "If you need any help, feel free to call me. Remember, Ryan, it's not your fault. You deserve better." After seeing them off, I stood alone in the empty living room. There's still a wedding picture of me and Amy on the wall, which seems so ironic. I removed the photo and carefully put it in a box. I sat on the couch and thought about the last few years. All the once sweet memories are now bitter. I don't know if I can believe in love again, if I can open my heart to someone again. But I know that life goes on, no matter what. I picked up my cell phone and dialed a number. "Hello, this is Dr. Bronson's clinic." "Hi, I'm Ryan Wilson. I'd like to make an appointment for a counseling. I know that this is just the beginning of a long road to recovery, but at least I've taken the first step." Outside the window, the sun was setting and a new day was approaching. I took a deep breath and prepared myself for the unknown. Time flies, and half a year has passed in the blink of an eye. I was sitting in Dr. Bronson's clinic, reviewing everything that had happened during this time. "Ryan, how have you been feeling?" Dr. Bronson asked gently. I took a deep breath and thought about how to answer. To be honest, it's much better. There are still bad days, but overall, I feel like I'm slowly recovering. Dr. Bronson nodded and encouraged me to continue. "Amy's trial is over," I said calmly. "And because she chose to cooperate with the prosecution and give key testimony, she received a lighter sentence. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but may be released early." "How do you feel about the results?" I shrugged my shoulders. "I'm not satisfied, but I don't think it's unfair either. At the very least, Harold Stanton and his accomplices got heavy sentences, and Stanton himself got 105 years, practically a life sentence." Dr. Bronson nodded thoughtfully. "Is that a relief to you?" "To some extent," I admitted. "But more importantly, I feel that justice has been served. The girls they hurt, at least, have some solace." We continued to discuss the details of the case for a while before Dr. Bronson gently changed the subject. "Ryan, we talked last time about your decision to move. What's happening with that decision now?" I smiled and replied, "It's done. I sold my house and bought an apartment closer to the office. It's a little smaller, but it feels more like a new start." "It's a good decision," Dr. Bronson agrees. "And new surroundings often bring new perspectives. Are you comfortable in your new home?" "It's still a bit of an adjustment," I answer honestly, "and I still feel a bit lonely at night sometimes. But I've started to try new things, like learning to cook and inviting friends over once in a while. All this is slowly helping me to rebuild my life." The conversation lasted almost an hour, and as I was getting ready to leave, Dr. Bronson said, "Ryan, I'm so proud of you. You've made a lot of progress in this time. Remember, recovery is a process, so don't expect too much of yourself." I nodded gratefully and left the clinic. The sun was shining outside, so I decided to walk home and enjoy the rare good weather. On the way, my cell phone rang. It was James. "Hey, Ryan, got time to talk?" "Sure, James. What happened?" "Just wanted to let you know that we've picked up a couple more people connected to Stanton. Looks like his network is wider than we thought." I sighed. "When will this really be over?" "It may never be completely over," James said frankly, "but at least we're trying to make the world a better place. By the way, how have you been?" We chatted for a while, and James invited me to a barbecue at his house this weekend. I gladly accepted the invitation, grateful to have such a friend around to support me. After I hung up, I remembered there was one more thing I needed to take care of. I dialed Amy's parents' phone number. "Hello, Mr. Wilson," I said. "I'm Ryan." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, and then Amy's father, Ralph, answered. "Ryan, I'm glad you called. How are you?" "I'm fine, thanks for asking. I'm just calling to let you know that I've organized all of Amy's things. If it's convenient, you can come and pick them up." There was another silence. Then Ralph said, "Thank you, Ryan. We're sorry this happened." I took a deep breath. "It's not your fault, Mr. Wilson. We were all kept in the dark." "Yes, but it's still. God, we really didn't know Amy was going to turn out like this, and Denise has been blaming herself for the way she was raised." I remembered that Amy had mentioned her mother's influence on her, But now is not the time to pursue that. Please give my regards to Mrs. Wilson. Remember, it's not your fault. Amy made her choice. We agreed on a time and ended the call. I put the phone down and felt a sense of relief. It was the last thing I needed to accomplish, and it marked the last connection I had to my past life. Back at my new house, I opened the refrigerator and took out a can of beer. Standing on my balcony, I looked at the city skyline and thought about my future. I know it will take a long time to rebuild trust and open hearts, but I also realize that life is full of possibilities. Just last week, I noticed that Emily, the new girl at work, seemed interested in me. I'm not ready to start a new relationship, but at least I'm starting to appreciate the kindness. My cell phone rang again, this time with a text message. It's from Nathan. Hey man, heard you moved? Want to go out for a drink and celebrate? I smiled and replied, yeah, it's a deal. You set the time and place. Putting the phone down, I let out a deep breath. Life is indeed slowly getting better. Although the pain is still there, I am learning to live with it and find strength in it. I know that there may be bumps in the road ahead, but I'm not the same Ryan who was crushed by deceit and betrayal. I have become stronger, wiser, and more appreciative of true friendship and affection. As the sun sets, the city is gilded in a golden color. I raised my beer and made a silent toast to the setting sun. To new life, I whispered, and to the future. Tomorrow, the sun will still rise, and I will move forward with renewed hope and courage, because I know that as long as we don't give up, life will always give us a second chance. That's the end of the story, but I've just turned a new page in my life. Who knows, maybe the best is yet to come. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.